2023 work session of the Riverton City Council to order at, what are we at, 6:31 p.m. Councilmember Larson, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I will give us the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to come together and speak about the business of the city. We ask that it please bless us, that as we discuss things tonight, we can have our minds enlightened as to the needs of our great citizens, and that we can be aware of the responsibility that we have for service and for thoughtfulness and for ensuring that our decisions will help lead our city in the right direction. We are so grateful for our first responders, our police officers, and our military, and ask that you please bless all those who serve our community in various capacities, that they can be blessed with safety and with the ability to make correct decisions that will help those around them and help them to feel that they are doing their jobs well. We are so grateful for all of our city staff and ask that it please bless them as they continue to serve. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 So I feel like we're kind of running on a shoestring here, and that also goes for our city clerk, who is not here. But if you could conduct the roll call for us.
Yes. Mayor Tim Hancock,
I'm here.
Councilwoman Carla Borders,
Not.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox,
Here.
Councilmember Mike Bailey, Councilmember Dean Pronto, Councilmember Kyle Larson,
Here.
Councilmember Christy Salisbury,
Here.
All right, the chair would entertain a motion to excuse Councilwoman Borders, Councilman Pronto, and Councilman Mike Bailey from tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 I vote aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes. I declare we have a quorum present with the addition of Councilwoman Salisbury over the phone. Thank you for being here. The chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilman Larson with the second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 I vote aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Delta 8, KRATOM, vaping discussion, city administrator's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll briefly cover a few of the topics that are addressed in your packet. However, I won't cover all of them, as this is a working session for you to have discussion. And I do want to recognize that we have several members of the community in attendance tonight, and I know that they hope to discuss with you some of this topic as well. In brief, on March 21st, 2023, Principal John Griffith attended the business meeting of the City Council to report on some of the impacts of vaping, e-cigarettes, Delta 8 products, and other substances that our youth are being impacted by at the high school. Specifically, he reported that the rate of vaping and e-cigarettes being used on K-12 campuses has skyrocketed over the past few years, resulting in many student hospitalizations and overdoses on nicotine, THC oil, crystal methamphetamines, opioids, and other drugs. The use of e-cigarettes has also resulted in the dramatic increase of marijuana use by students. And then he also reported on something that the Safe Havens International is finding, and that is that the problem is overwhelmingly in secondary schools, resulting in massive amounts of staff time and other resources dedicated to prevention and mitigation. Principal Griffith also discussed concerning trends that they are seeing in the high school, particularly that individuals are actively seeking substances that will not show up in urinalysis. He also communicated that many vape cartridges are refillable and that youth are mixing various forms of liquid substances and other matters in their devices, whether through self-mixing or through material that's provided by another individual. It is concerning in that the user does not always understand the ingredients that are being mixed or used in their vaping devices. While there are several substances that are impacting youth and students in our community, the materials tonight and in your report focus specifically on the cannabis sativa plant, or marijuana and hemp, KRATOM, and then vaping. In your packet, there's significant information related to each of these, but I think it's appropriate to at least cover in brief some of the items specific to cannabis. Some of the terms that will be brought up tonight is tetrahydrocannabinol.
Tetrahydrocannabinol.
Thank you. If it's okay with the council, I'd like to refer to that as THC from here on out.
Sounds good.
Thank you. THC is the major psychoactive component and is one of the many cannabinoids in the cannabis sativa plant. While the plant contains significant amounts of delta-9 THC, there contain very little amounts of delta-H THC, which is another cannabinoid. Depending on the quality and quantity and other factors, both delta-8 THC and delta-9 THC can produce psychoactive effects. The other term that will be brought up tonight is cannabidiol, which is CBD. This is the second most prevalent active ingredient found in the cannabis sativa plant. CBD is derived directly from hemp or manufactured in a laboratory. CBD does not cause impairment by itself or create a high on its own. Hemp is defined as any part of the plant with no more than 0.3% of THC. Delta-9, as I've already referenced, is a naturally occurring component of the plant and is often referred to as marijuana. It is the component in marijuana that allows individuals to experience a high. In states where delta-9 THC is legal, cannabis dispensaries are able to offer delta-9 THC products in many forms, and those include gummies, cookies, beverages, etc. Some manufacturers market delta-9 products as being available to treat and mitigate symptoms of certain medical conditions and diseases. However, the FDA has approved only 2 synthetic THC formulations, which are used to alleviate nausea and vomiting during chemotherapy. And they also use these products for other medical matters. As referenced, delta-8 THC is naturally occurring, but only contains a small amount of the THC referenced above. It is typically manufactured in concentrated, the THC that's oftentimes consumed, delta-8 THC, is typically manufactured from concentrated amounts from hemp-derived CBD products for consumption. In brief, nearly all delta-8 THC products are synthesized. There's more information in your packet on this. There's also video links to help you understand the difference between delta-8 and delta-9. The FDA has neither evaluated nor approved a lot of the claims associated with THC delta-8. They can be consumed in many forms, ranging from gummies, chocolates, and other candies, cookies, vaping cartridges, etc. In May of 2022, the FDA issued a warning letter to manufacturers of delta-8 THC for violating some of their, for violating the Food and Drug Cosmetic Act. And then the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, released a health alert regarding delta-8 products. And mostly this was to inform consumers that CBD can be synthetically converted to delta-8 THC. The other item that was brought up by the principal is kratom, which is referenced to a tree that's natural to Southeast Asia. The leaves from kratom can be crushed, smoked, chewed, brewed, or placed in gel capsules. It's described as having 3 strains. The white strain helps with blood sugar or provides energy. The red strain provides energy or relaxation. And the green strain affects pain relief, rest, and focus. It's interesting that consumption of kratom in low doses can cause stimulant effects such as alertness, physical energy, and talkativeness. Consumption in high doses can lead to psychotic symptoms and psychological or physiological dependence. There are several laws that address indirectly or directly these substances. And again, for the purpose of tonight's discussion, we'll focus on those items as that was what the council directed when setting up this work session. In essence, local, state, and federal laws influence these, and I think it would be appropriate to start with tobacco products and vaping. When it comes to nicotine and tobacco-related products, President Trump signed legislation amending the Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act to raise the federal minimum age for the sale of tobacco products from 18 to 21. This is known as Tobacco 21 or T21. Wyoming statute mirrors T21 in that it states no individual shall sell, offer, for sale, or give away nicotine products to anyone under the age of 21, and there are fines associated therewith. Subsequent state statutes also make it illegal to purchase or possess nicotine products, including electronic cigarettes or vaping material for individuals under the age of 21. Riverton Municipal Code, however, is in conflict with the above referenced statutes and federal laws in that it has not been updated to reflect the T21 or Tobacco 21 federal law. Our statute is in your packet, and that's available for your reference, but basically it states that no person under the age of 18 shall purchase tobacco, etc. And vaping is included in our ordinance there. As far as tonight's discussion, as a starting point, staff recommends that the City Council update our ordinance to reflect T21 as it relates to the federal law and state laws, and you can give us direction on how to do that. I've provided examples of what Sheridan City has done, and there are other examples available to you. When it comes to the legality of Delta 8 THC and Delta 9 THC, there's a lot of information available to you. Again, in an effort to be brief, marijuana or Delta 9 THC is a Schedule I controlled substance under CSA, which is the Controlled Substances Act. That's the federal act. As we know, over the last several decades, several states and territories have deviated from that Schedule I regulation and have laws and policies that allow for the cultivation, sale, distribution, and possession of marijuana. However, Wyoming statute includes marijuana as a Schedule I substance and is therefore prohibited in the state of Wyoming. And it's unlawful for any person to knowingly or intentionally possess a controlled substance as it relates to Schedule I. And there are fines associated therewith. Riverton Municipal Code also addresses marijuana and states that it's unlawful for any person within city limits of Riverton to possess or use marijuana, its derivatives, or synthetic equivalents. When it comes to CBD and Delta 8, it's less clear. The Farm Bill, or the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, changed the way that hemp and CBD are treated under federal and state law. In brief, the bill removed all hemp-derived products from the schedule of controlled substances that we referenced earlier. By removing hemp and CBD from the list of controlled substances, Delta 8 THC is considered legal at the federal level. Since Delta 8 products are synthesized from concentrated levels of CBD, they remain in a bit of a proverbial gray area as an uncontrolled substance. That said, 14 states have taken action on Delta 8 products, and the FDA has stated that it is aware of growing concerns surrounding Delta 8 THC products being sold online and in stores. KRATOM is not controlled by the CSA, and the federal and the FDA has not approved kratom for any medical use. In addition, the DEA has listed kratom as a drug of chemical concern. There is a lobbying effort for the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, and in your packet you'll see references to states that have adopted that and other states that have outright banned the use of kratom. In speaking with the city's attorney, we believe that the Wyoming legislature is probably the most appropriate governing body to address Delta-8 THC or kratom products. As such, the city may choose to work with its representatives to regulate products impacting the community and the youth, as represented by the principal. There are a few examples in your packet of recent efforts of the legislature to address these types of products and marijuana. The ones referenced in your packet were unsuccessful. However, I do want to make reference to some that were not included in your packet. And they were recently adopted in that Delta-8 is still something that is regulated. However, the tobacco statute was revised this last legislative session to include vaping materials and especially vaping products when used for THC consumption, whether synthesized or as it relates to Delta-9. I'd also like to report that as an interim topic, the legislature is looking at Delta-8. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Judiciary Committee spent about 30 minutes discussing Delta-8 and their intention to potentially address it at the upcoming legislative session. I know that that was a bit of a lengthy rundown, but I think it's important to go through what we're discussing and respond back to the council as far as the direction you gave. And I'll stand for any questions if you have them at this time.
Any questions? Councilwoman Salisbury, you still there?
Yes, I am. So, with our new ordinance, are we basically updating it to address underage vaping?
I think, and you're talking about the ordinance that was in the packet?
Yes, that we're to address the problem in the schools.
You can go ahead.
Your Honor, staff hasn't proposed any ordinance at this time. However, we're seeking your direction as far as how you want to address the conflict we have with T21 when it comes to nicotine, and if you want to expand that any further to vaping products or any of the other products that are related tonight.
Does that answer your question, Councilwoman?
Yes, so, what did the Sheridan ordinance, I read through it briefly and stuff.
Councilwoman.
Let me turn this off. Yes, so, just a second. So if we let the legislature go ahead and address the Delta-8, what will we be doing now to address the issue with it in schools? Just raise the fines for having vaping devices, or what is the suggestion with that?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, right now by state statute, there is a fine for anyone who sells tobacco products to someone under the age of 21, and that fine is $250 for the first offense. There's also a fine in state statute for individuals who purchase or possess tobacco products who are underage. That fine is $25, and that can be reduced by the judge if they deem necessary to $10 with community service or other type of activities. For the city's statute, or excuse me, the ordinance, while it does reference the wrong age at 18, we also have an ability to charge any person who violates a provision of our tobacco ordinance with a misdemeanor, and the general penalty that's listed in our ordinance book for a misdemeanor is a fine up to $750. So the state has a fine of $25 we can, as a city, charge up to $750. The sample ordinance that Sheridan worked through made more stringent fines as it related to the use of tobacco products and electronic cigarettes by minors. And it was an escalating consequence for breaking that ordinance. The first fine was up to $100. Second offense was up to $200. Third offense up to $300, et cetera.
Let's do that.
And I guess I would note, in terms of the electronic cigarettes don't have to have tobacco or anything to do with tobacco. It's just an electronic cigarette, regardless of what it's being used for. I'm reading that right.
So do we think that there's any deterrent for people, that students and people, to stop using the vaping based on our current ordinance, or is it even enforceable? Or
I think our current ordinance just addresses tobacco products. I don't even know if we necessarily address, I'd have to look at that again.
Your Honor, our current ordinance does address vaping as well.
Okay. But it's still 18, not 21, which is what the federal government has.
Your Honor, that's correct. If I could, it basically states our current ordinance defines tobacco products as substance containing tobacco leaf or nicotine regardless of origin, including without limitation cigarettes, cigars, pipe, tobacco, snuff, chewing tobacco, dipping tobacco, vaping devices, including electronic cigarettes, regardless of the substance intended for inhalation, and they're included as violations underneath that chapter.
So really, we could, rather than adopting even what Sheridan has, we could just adopt an ordinance that would change the age, and it would capture tobacco products and vaping that involves inhaling vapors or fumes regardless of the substance.
so I would be good with that.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I don't know if the principal is here, but he was trying to say that he would like all of the possibility of the sale of that product to be done in Lander. That was his feelings. Being old enough, all of this is a rouge. And Sheridan is faced with living close to Montana, where they have medical marijuana dispensaries. And anybody that doesn't understand what marijuana does isn't current on education. Young kids, and I don't mean to say young kids, young people like to drive close to the edge of the road, and it's thrilling and exciting. But I have two adult children, 48 children, and both of them have been victims of marijuana. And you can call it Delta 8, you can call it whatever you want, but marijuana is probably, and we can say that it helps medication. Well, opium was used 1880s and 90s. Laudanum was used to subduce pain, and so was marijuana, and it has its usage for those areas. But, you know, to give it any legitimacy is just foolish. City of Riverton needs to just say, ban it.
Marijuana?
Marijuana, yeah. And tobacco products. Tobacco is not fit for human consumption, and I'm sorry for those individuals that have formed a habit on it. But their lives are shortened, and the medical industry is enlightened by fixing all of the damages that tobacco brings on, and so will it be working with marijuana. It's just another symptom, and you just need to be honest and say, we're not going to do it. 21 years of age, you ought to be able to realize that you finally, when at 21, I was thinking I was really smart, but now at 80, I can see I wasn't very smart. And we just need to buckle down and say we're not going to profit on selling drugs to youth. Thank you.
Well, and I will note that already at the federal level, retailers can't sell vaping products containing tobacco or not to someone under 21, as I understand it. So if we were to adopt an ordinance like this, all we're doing is making it so that if somebody were to sell vaping products to someone who's 18 to 21, they could not only be charged federally, but they could be charged pursuant to the city ordinance, if I'm not mistaken.
Your Honor, that's correct, and tobacco products are legal for consumption except for those under 21.
Right.
For sale or possession. The federal law states that it's illegal to sell to individuals under the age of 21. The state law states that it's illegal to sell and then also possess under the age of 21. And I apologize, I didn't have this paper before me, but Enrolled Act 66 is what I referenced before, and it added a section to statute as it relates to tobacco products, and this is where it addressed the sale or delivery of edible products and vaping products to individuals under the age of 18. So that may confuse things a little bit, but I think it also clarifies in the sense that tobacco products cannot be sold to anyone under 21 or used by anyone under 21. This new Enrolled Act, which will take in effect this summer, states that no person or retailer shall sell, permit the sale, offer for sale, or give away or deliver edible products or vaping products to any person under the age of 18, and there are fines associated therewith. First offense, $250, second offense, $500, third offense, $750. To define edible products, it means any product intended for consumption, including but not limited to baked goods, candies, gummies, and liquids that contain THC, controlled substance listed under Wyoming statute. And specifically, the statute refers to Schedule 1 regulated cannabinoids. So that would be Delta 9, and then there's Delta 6 and 10 and 3 and 4, I think, that are still on the Schedule 1 product, but Delta 8 is not. So that relates to those, and then it defines THC, meaning a psychoactive component of the cannabis plant, and it also relates to psychoactive synthetic analogs of THC. And vaping products mean any device containing THC that is being or has been used to deliver aerosol or vaporized THC to the person using the device, et cetera, et cetera. So the state just recently adopted statute to address vaping devices in particular, and that's added to the tobacco statute.
Well, and that's set to be in effect July 1st, too, so that was just passed and then signed by the governor.
Correct.
And that one is interesting, I guess, in that theoretically, the way it was before this came about, as long as the THC was derived from hemp, it would not have been controlled. But this statute is making it so that regardless of the source, as long as it's from the cannabis plant, which has both hemp and marijuana as a part of that family.
Your Honor, that's That's correct to a point. It's only for the Schedule 1 related items, and that does not include Delta 8.
Right, I agree. So it would just be Delta 9, but I guess my point is, the difference with this is that it actually makes it so even though something is derived, could have been derived from hemp or marijuana, it doesn't matter. As long as it's got THC in it, it's not to be sold to someone who's under the age of 18, either as a vape or as a edible, which is the law in Wyoming and in Riverton because it's a part of Wyoming. Last I checked. Any other questions or discussion on this?
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to?
You can come on up, just tell us your name, and if you're with an organization, tell us who it is.
Your Honor, members, thank you for having me. My name is Jacob Davis. I own Vapors in Riverton here, 509 South Federal. I'm the third oldest vape shop in the state of Wyoming. Proud to say so. We've been in business 10 and a half years now. We have had no violations, no write-ups, nothing at all that we have done wrong. I heard Mr. Butterfield state that it is 18. As a matter of fact, it is 21 in the state of Wyoming, that we can only sell to 21 and above. When it comes to CBD-related products, it has to be 18 years and above. But for any vapor-related product, it has to be 21 and above. All of our devices even have that on them, that there must be 21 and above. So tobacco is already, vape juice is already considered a tobacco product, which falls under the T21. So that's already covered. That's something that has been for the past 2 years, two and a half years, I would say now, that's been that way. As a matter of fact, everything that we sell as far as devices go have the 21 and older. It has to make up 1/3 of the actual label itself, that it's for 21 and older. So I'd like to bring that up just so that's clarified, that it's already scheduled as 21 or older.
So do you ID every person that purchases?
Yes, ma'am. We ID everybody that appears to be under the age of 27 is what we ID. Like I say, we have had no violations. We have been stung multiple times. We have passed every sting. We've had no violations in 10 and a half years. Something that I feel is important about this as well is this is the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018 that we're talking about. This is 528 pages. Both sides are printed. Wyoming actually introduced this act to Congress. It was passed in 2018. Congress is ratifying this act this year, 2023. They're in the process of doing so. So we should have a new farm bill for 2023. But as of now, this is the Agricultural Improvement Act, or the Farm Bill, which made hemp and hemp products legal in all states. I feel that it's very important that you folks understand that if you do ban Delta 8 and Kratom we don't sell. We will tell you that right now. We have nothing to do with Kratom. We never have. We never will. We don't know what it does. We don't understand it at all. So we try to avoid it. Making it illegal in the city of Riverton will make it more profitable for other cities. Lander, Shoshone, every other city in the state right now. I know personally that we provide a lot of sales tax to the city of Riverton. And, it's something that I would hate to see money that is needed right now in Riverton. Just drive up and down Main Street, take a look at the buildings that are empty. Money that's needed in the city of Riverton to go to someplace else. And if you folks believe that people won't travel the 22 miles to drive to Lander to pick it up, you're vaguely mistaken. We all live in Lander, but we work in Riverton. So we drive back and forth every day. I can let you know that. As far as that goes as well, there's no way to get around online sales. You can purchase Delta 8 products online. So there's no way to get around online sales. The way that it's set up right now is it has to be somebody there that is over the age of 21 to sign for the product when it does show up at their house, or they can't pick it up. But they could have a friend or a family member sign for their product and get the product that way. So there is no true way that you can stop Delta 8 products from coming into the city of Riverton. I feel it's important as well that I listened to the presentation from the principal of Riverton High School, and he stated that you're not quite certain what's in the product. I feel that it's important that these are MSDS sheets, material safety data sheets, that show us exactly what's in the product of what we sell. We sell two companies. We sell one company, they're called Looper, and we sell another company called Ghost. They're both made in the United States. They're both made in ISO Class 3 clean rooms. If you don't know what that is, that's basically a laboratory. Requires footwear, hairnets, gloves, chemical suits, the whole 9 yards. We have these readily available to store. If anybody has any questions on what is in the product, we have these readily available. We understand that it's a problem in the high school, and we want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I think it's obvious for the past 10 years with no violations that we are part of the solution instead of part of the problem. If we were part of the problem, then we would have a lot more fines than we don't have any right now. We've never done anything wrong. I think that with you passing, if you decide to pursue this with Delta 8, that you should also consider making alcohol illegal. Reason for that is many different flavors of alcohol. Have to be 21 to purchase it as well as you do any of the Delta products that we sell at our store at least. I don't know of other stores, but I don't see anybody else here except a gentleman from the Paposia One Stops that's here to speak, but I don't see anybody else here from vape shops in Riverton. So with that, I ask that you understand what Delta 8 is, the compounds of Delta 8. Understand as well that it is a federal offense for us to sell if it's above 0.3 on the Delta 9. It is against the law for us to sell that if our product is above the 0.3. With every shipment of Delta 8 products or CBD products that we do get in, we get MSDS sheets with those for that specific batch, and we do carry those at the store. So if anybody has any questions, they could just stop by. We're more than happy to show them this, or they could take and make copies if they'd like to. We don't have a copy machine at the store, so we're unable to do so. But I feel that that's something that's important, very important, is to have MSDS sheets or COAs from third-party testing facilities, not from the company that's selling it, because we all know that that's easily manipulated, but from third-party testing facilities. I think that's very important. Something that I'm seeing a lot of right now as well is a proliferation of products coming directly from China. With that, those products are scary. The reason that vape shops do that is they get around different things. State of Wyoming makes us pay a 15% wholesale tax on every product that we receive for our vape. That would include our juices, our hardware, our coils, everything. As far as CBD sales goes, there is no 15% wholesale tax on that, but for vape, there is a 15% wholesale tax on that goes back to the state of Wyoming. So I don't understand, you know, like I say, I do understand that it's in the school, which we don't like. But once the product leaves our store, it's out of our hands. It's kind of like when we all were younger and we wanted alcohol, we'd get it. There was, we knew somebody who could get it for us. We try to identify those people by the amount of product they purchase, and we will cut them off if we do see that happening. If there's somebody coming in purchasing more of something than they should be, we'll cut them off. So as far as my store goes, Vapors LLC, like I say, we've been 10 years in the industry. We have no infractions. Ex-chief police just stepped down. He is, his mother is one of our consumers. We have several police officers that are consumers of our vapor products as well, and they do stop in the store at a regular basis. So there's a heavy police presence around our store. Just something that we like. That way it deters youth from coming in and having the opportunity to make that purchase, which would not happen in my store. So knowing that, I think we need to focus on the bad eggs instead of all the eggs, and try to get the bad eggs out of the basket and make it a fair play for all parties involved.
Appreciate you coming in and speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your time. And if any of you folks would like copies of this, you're more than welcome to stop down at my store. We have copies.
Your Honor,
Go ahead, Councilwoman Salisbury.
I'd just like to ask the gentleman, recently I was in the middle school doing interviews, and there's a huge box of vaping devices taken from middle school kids as well, which are generally age 10 or 11 to 13. What kind of solutions would you have in regards to keeping those devices out of the young kids' hands?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
She had said that.
What would be a solution to keep the vaping devices away from that age group?
Middle school students.
Middle school students? Oh, of course, we're totally against that as well. 21 is 21. We have signs all over our stores say 21 is 21. We're part of the No ID, No Vape initiative that Naked 100, which is a juice manufacturer, an e-liquid manufacturer, established. And we're part of that. So there again, I would say that we're totally against any youth having the product, especially because of nicotine is an addictive substance. But I would disagree with Mr. Butterfield as to the fact that he was saying that there's a lot more in there than what we know about. Actually, we know everything that's in there, and everything that's in everything we sell. That's why we avoid KRATOM. We don't understand it. We don't know what's in it. We don't know where it comes from. So we avoid that. But we do everything up to par, and I think you could ask Officer Romero and also Lander Police Department as well, because we had our store there for 3.5 years before we moved to Riverton. We've had no infractions whatsoever. So I think, like I say, we need to focus on the bad eggs and try to get the bad eggs out of the basket and keep the good ones there. Now, how do we do that? I wish that I knew. I can let you know that I've seen many high school age kids go into, I've sat outside the store up on the hill. I've seen many high school age kids go inside and walk out with product. Same thing in Lander. I've sat outside for hours outside the Lander store, seen kids go in there. When I say kids being under 21, go in there and walk out with product. That has never happened at my store, and that never will. So I'd like that to be a consideration as well. Also, this is a kind of a, as Mr. Butterfield was saying, this is a gray area right now that the legislature is working on, and we are backing them with as much knowledge as we can. We are represented. We only sell 2 different companies. They all have a team of attorneys that are behind them. As a matter of fact, one of the companies that we carry is called Hometown Hero. They're based out of Texas, and they're pushing this to go through in the state of Texas. Texas is one of the stringent states as far as Delta 8 products go. But they have done a very good job in setting the standard and setting the bar as to what's acceptable and what's not. So if you folks have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Any other questions? Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.
Not a problem. Again,
Say
if you would
Davis,
like.
is that correct? Davis?
Davis, yes, sir.
Thanks for coming in.
Again, if any of you folks would like copies of the MSDS sheets, please stop down by our store. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And also, if you'd like a copy of the Farm Bill, this one cost me $127 to print, so you can find it online and print that one out yourself. So again, thank you very much for your time. And like I say, we want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I think within the past 10 years, we've proven that we're part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm sorry? 509 South Federal Boulevard? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak on this topic?
Hi guys, thanks for your time. I'm Aziz Wahid. I'm the principal at Riverton Middle School. I know you heard from one of our colleagues, Principal Griffith, as well Principal Reggie Miller and probably Mrs. Richmond. This is School Resource Officer Larson, Assistant Principal Mr. Jordan. This problem is near and dear to us. We spend a lot of our days dealing with this topic of vaping, Delta 8, CBD. It's a daily thing for us. We've invested a significant amount of money, as Principal Griffith mentioned last time, into vape devices, and we have camera systems and everything that we can do proactively. We're trying to teach kids and educate kids. The bottom line is we need your help. We know these guys are doing things responsibly, but the bottom line is this is a small portion of what we have of tobacco devices. This doesn't include the CBD devices that Officer Larson submits into evidence that we've confiscated and gone through, and just a portion of them. So, we're aware that we might know chemically what's in them, but we don't know the long-term effects on our youth. We see kids using them all the time. One of the heartbreaking things is when a kid comes into one of our offices and we're talking about it with them and they're just like, I can't stop. A 12-year-old kid saying, I can't stop, right? So imagine they're not waiting until they're 21. They're starting when they're 12 and they can't stop. We don't know the long-term effects of this stuff. And we're hearing this on a daily basis. I think it was yesterday, the day before, Officer Larson had a kid in his office, tested positive for a CBD vape, and Officer Larson said something to the effect of, you got to quit this stuff, man. You got to stop doing this. And he's like, I know I do, right? They understand it's bad. They get that they shouldn't do it. The availability is there. They're everywhere. We need help. I don't know what that is. I don't have the solution. I know doing nothing is not the answer. We are trying to educate at earlier and earlier ages. We're seeing this, as mentioned, at younger schools, but middle school is a prime, like a very prevalent place for this stuff. And we are seeing more and more people doing this.
Can we bring the box up to you guys and kind of thumb through them a little bit?
Come on up, that's fine. Thanks for coming in, Officer Larson.
So, that's just like you said, that's just the tobacco ones. I keep those in a safe at the middle school because the quantity that the middle school, the high school generates would kind of clog up our evidence room here. So we log the ones that have THC in them. And as far as the Delta 8, Delta 9, all the THC, they're labeled THC. However, we treat them with our NIC kits. If they test positive for THC, we just go off what the state statute for cannabis is and charge accordingly to that. Like Mr. Wahid was saying, this is the age 11 to 13 at the middle school, high schools from there, and we have it down into our elementary schools as well. Officer Christofferson's dealt with first graders, second graders, third graders. I don't think we've had one in kindergarten yet, but kids are getting at them. I understand 21-year-olds may be buying them or they're ordering them online, but if you look through the box, there's the variety of the flavors are bubblegum, fruit blast, who knows what the cherry flavors is. I had that in my truck, and my truck smells like a cotton candy. I was in there for 10 minutes. So just the history of tobacco is kind of repeating itself and over again, right? They were advertising to young kids in the 40s, 50s, 60s. This is the cool thing to do. We were just talking about it today. When we were in high school, it was the flavored chewing tobaccos. Now it's the flavored vapes that always come out as it's the better alternative for smoking, right? Cigarettes will kill you, but when they first started advertising cigarettes were healthy, right? Every doctor recommends a cigarette. We were looking at ads today. They were cracking us up. Dentist approved, right?
9 New York doctors.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Not often a carload.
So it seems to be repeating itself, and it's just the new tobacco product. And I understand adults are going to make their decisions, the 21-year-olds, but the difference between when we were in school and before vape pens is kids couldn't smoke a cigarette in a class, right? So there was certain times where they might be able to sneak off and smoke a cigarette, go out to the alley and smoke a cigarette, but then their clothes smelled like it, their breath smelled like it, right? Chewing tobacco was in your teeth, you had to spit. These things, we have kids puffing on these all day. And one of those little cartridges, just the Maverick ones you can get or the gas station ones you can get, are equivalent to a pack of cigarettes, right? 300 puffs. And that's about a pack of cigarettes. So you get a kid one of those, and it's cotton candy flavored, and he can hold it in and breathe it out slowly, and there's no vapor, and he's doing it during class. He's potentially smoking a pack of cigarettes throughout the whole day. And like I said, at the age of third grade on to till they die of whatever type of cancer they're going to get from smoking. And that's what's scary to us. And it's so new. We have kids that I've had several kids tell me, I've been smoking since I was in 4th grade. I can't stop. And then I'm telling them, well, how do you get a kid to quit using tobacco or nicotine? Because all the nicotine products for people to quit, you have to be 21 to buy, right? So you can't go get a nicotine patch or a little menthol pill, right? So you guys quit cold turkey. You adults get access to the stuff to help you quit, but you kids, you don't need your cotton candy anymore. So it's just kind of a never-ending cycle for us, and we're doing our best to educate, but, we'll take one from a kid, and they go home, and they grab mom's new one, or they wherever they get it from. It's always they found it on the street, which is super convenient. That's the story they always tell us. I found it in the gutter. So the issue we're seeing is repeat offenders, not a lot of teeth when we do charge through our city ordinance. And our city ordinance, Judge McKee, is overwhelmed with tobacco tickets, and from the middle school, from the high school. So it just kind of repeats the cycle. We don't charge them, we charge them and then they don't go to court and nothing happens through there. So it's kind of a vicious cycle to get kids into a court system. The fines aren't enough to make them take them serious, or, we can't seem to get the tobacco companies to stop making bubblegum flavored tobacco products. It's kind of a never-ending cycle. And then you bring in the marijuana aspect of it with Delta 8. It may have the 0.3% THC, but if you smoke on it all day long, you're taking that 0.3 and 0.3 and 0.3, and eventually you're pretty well off. And the kids we interact with that are using it are extremely intoxicated on the substance. So it's not a therapeutic dose for them if they're smoking it all day constantly.
And I guess in speaking with the state legislatures and asking them why the Delta 8 bill was an 18-year-old thing instead of a 21, like the T21, their response was they wanted to get it passed and didn't want to go through the argument of like, if they're 18, they can serve their country, but they can't buy something. But we've already done that with alcohol. We've already done that with tobacco. And I guess from my perspective of protecting our youth, 3 years is a big difference in access to who they can get to buy them. A lot of our kids might not have somebody that's 21 or 22 or 23 to get access to that, but a lot of our kids have an 18-year-old. So just from a protecting our youth perspective, I would ask that Riverton thinks about, if they're not going to outright ban Delta 8, be a front runner in making it 21 until they change it at the state like they need to. I think that makes a huge difference in just access versus just having a high school buddy be able to go in and buy it at 18, of really having to like search somebody out. You've referenced the being able to get booze when you were a kid. It was only 18 when you were a kid. It was 21 when I was a kid, so it was a lot harder, I think, for me. And so I just would ask you to at least consider that, if it's not going to be an outright ban, just to follow the T21 or the T21 that was passed. Anything we can do to just help a little bit, I think we have the obligation to do so.
Yeah, so I guess to sum up, we don't know the easy solution, or we would have done it by now, but we are trying. We're trying to get on the front side. We're trying to educate. We're trying to tell the stories. We're trying to curb the behaviors. We need help. This is a community issue. If we don't get on the front side, we're going to pay for it later, right? We're going to pay for them through hospital bills, through medical care, through ongoing addictions, the gateway to the next thing. So we want to get on the front side of shutting it down. We really feel like the education on cigarettes really curbed it for a long time. And like Officer Larson said, it was a lot easier to track because of the smells and because of the locations. It's really rare we see cigarettes. We pretty much don't anymore. But these things are really difficult to track. And we've done our part. We need help though. So that's what we would ask of your concern.
Yeah,
Yes, Councilwoman Salisbury.
sorry to interrupt. Would it be, do we need to, as our law enforcement arm, do more enforcement or consequences, and maybe do some sweeps through the school, or have more consequences for the people using it that are underage?
So
is that a solution?
So from our standpoint, you know, we have this consequence matrix that we go through. Officer Larson goes through his statutes and his side of things. You know, we have sensors, we do the sweeps, we have great support from law enforcement. I think, and Officer Larson kind of spoke to this, the hard part is, you know, getting them to court, having that part having teeth for a minimal fine. They don't pay the fine, they don't show up to court. What do you do next? They don't show up to court. There's some big status offenses that I know they need to spend their time on, so we kind of get pushed aside. So again, I'm not certain on the solution. I just know we need some assistance in having some kind of juvenile, more accountability from the city side or from the consequence side. We're doing what we can from the school side, but you know, I hate that part of it. I kick them out of school when they've done this a few times. Like, what does that do? You're back at home, you have access to this stuff, you're doing it more. It seems really hypocritical. I don't feel like we're trying to, that's why we've actually changed our consequence. We're keeping them in school on first offense. We're confiscating it. We're making them write a paper and all the things. But You know, when you have an addiction, writing a paper doesn't help you kick the addiction, right? It's just words on a paper. So anyway, appreciate your time. Any questions for us?
Questions? Are you aware of a tobacco cessation program right now that anybody's running? Is that something, for example,
So we have our counselors that give resources out, and one of the things we always talk to the parents and the kids about when they are caught is we give them the names of the counselors. They will give them the resources. So Quit Wyoming, and then they have a couple other packets, and those are really helpful. But again, to get like the patch and stuff, like the parents would have to do that, and they would have to follow through. And we have parents that have done that, and I think we've had some success with that. And then there's, you know, we always offer the counseling through our school counselors, but, you know, they're only trained so far, and to deal with addiction is a little bit outside their realm in certain manners. But we do have some kids that take up for that. We do have the parents that take advantage of that, and we think that it's helped a little bit. We have a program called Ripple Effects, so it's an educational device that we make them all do if they get caught. We make them do that presentation. So we do hand the information on, we do try to follow through as much as we can, but sometimes it's out of our realm as well. But we have had some success with some parents that came in and said, thank you so much, it's helping. We think that we're gonna get it kicked because of that help, so.
well, I think that was very sobering. That's a funny expression to use. I think that was very sobering what Officer Larson was saying. We sit here and we have all these different things that adults get to use, but under 21, you can't use them. Can't use a patch, can't use different things like that, or a gum, or, so that's interesting. I appreciate you coming in, thank you.
Thank you.
And don't forget your box. Is there anyone else who was wanting to address the council on this? Yeah, come on up.
Mr. Mayor and esteemed council members, thank you for having me. My name is Nick Hubenka. I represent We the People. We have products in all the pit stops around the state. One of the main things that we do is, just as everyone spoke before, we will not sell to anyone that's under the age of 21. It does not happen. We've run stings ourselves to see if the employees at the stores are following that rule. And up to date, not once have they failed. All the products that we have are under lock and key. And if they're not under lock and key, they're behind the sales desk where nobody has access to it except for the clerk. We do sell vapes. We also sell hemp-based product and CBD products. I'm very passionate about the hemp-based products and CBD products because I feel that they help people. I feel that they help people that are dealing with sickness. I feel that they give an alternative to people in different situations. We have products at Pit Stop 3, which is closest to, say, the reservation. One of the things that we were really passionate about is giving someone an option to use a product besides alcohol. Say a female becomes pregnant and they have the option to use alcohol. That in turn is going to, cause fetal alcohol syndrome. If they can use a product such as a hemp-derived product, instead of that, we're going to stop that FAS going on the reservation. And we're really curious because we started this at the first of the year. After, say, 3 years' time, what the level of fetal alcohol syndrome is on the reservation moving from 2023 to, say, 3 years from now. I feel it's going to drop because it gives that person, that female, a option besides alcohol. It's a little bit different. This is, like I said, very, very near to my heart because these hemp-derived products have helped me, and I also know lots of people that they have helped. Every single store that I've put them in, I've spoken with people, and I have lots of different letters of support. I actually brought one with me to read to you. I have copies if you guys would like one. Does that matter?
You can bring those up.
All right.
Thank you.
So this is a letter that was written in support of our products. If it's okay, I'd like to read it so everyone here can see what's included in it.
Go ahead.
All right. Dear Mr. Mayor and esteemed council members, as a lifelong resident of Riverton, Wyoming, I'd like to express my sincere concern pertaining to the prospective city ordinance banning the sale of CBD/hemp-based products in the city of Riverton. As a consumer of these products for medical purposes, I find it upsetting, unfair, and discriminatory that these federally approved and legal goods may become unavailable to me and other medically challenged citizens in the town I reside in. By removing the sale of these products in Riverton, consumers will be forced to travel to and financially support other towns to purchase their CBD/hemp products. I would prefer to keep my money in Riverton and buy local. I am 62 years old. I was born in Riverton. I work for a locally owned business and have held a respected position in this company for 40 years. I've held several positions in different community service organizations and currently serve as board chair for an organization providing housing for those in recovery. What I typically do not disclose about myself is I have an incurable disease. The disease attacks my muscles, joints, kidneys, liver, skin, heart, and lungs. This killer is called lupus. As I said, there is no cure, and yes, lupus will probably be the cause of my demise. But the option of mind-altering and addictive prescription pain medication is not the road I wish to travel. My mother was a prescription drug addict. Her life was destroyed and very short. By using a CBD-based tincture once a day, for the first time in 25 plus years, I'm able to sleep at least 5 to 6 hours at a time. The rest is imperative to my remission. When the muscle pain is unspeakable, I will take a CBD/hemp gummy. This in no way, shape, or form makes me high. It just helps relax my muscles so movement is possible. The CBD-based cream I use on my face when the lupus butterfly rash appears, it soothes and relieves the burning pain. The city of Riverton banning the sale of these products, to myself and hundreds of other local citizens used to lead a better quality of life is unfathomable to me. I understand the issues of minors in possession of these products. It's concerning. We have the same issues with minors in possession of alcohol and tobacco products. May I ask the question why you're discriminating against the medically challenged by only banning the CBD hemp products and not cigarettes and alcohol, which cause a different set of issues in our community? Please take into consideration the local businesses and how this will negatively affect their revenue. As a lifelong productive citizen of Riverton, Wyoming, I would ask you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and law enforcement to re-examine the advancement of this potential ordinance. The stigma attached to CBD hemp products is simply archaic and non-progressive. The medicinal benefits have been proven. Please do not negate their importance in our community. And once again, the CBD hemp products are state and federally approved to sell. I appreciate your time and consideration. Sincerely, Pamela Standridge Hubanka. This person happens to be my mother. So it wasn't really bring your mommy to city council day. So she wanted me to bring this. This is what she wrote. I didn't ask her to write this. However, I feel that by me being able to provide products like this to her, I'm making a difference. I know I've made a difference in her life. I know I've made a difference in a lot of different people's lives. There are some people who didn't want to be mentioned. We have people who have cancer. We have people who have MS. We have people who have multiple diseases, and they use these for medicine. And that's what we're here for. And I'd also like to agree with everyone that came up and spoke. 21 means 21. If we need to pass an ordinance for that, I think that's a great thing to do. Beyond that, I don't know what else we could do. Same as alcohol, same as nicotine. We just try our best to keep it out of the hands of minors. So, Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Hubenka? Are you, you were talking a lot about CBD. CBD, as far as I understand, it's not psychoactive.
No, it is not.
Delta 8 is.
Delta 8 can be. It kind of depends on the person.
And so I guess, you know, I don't think in any of the conversation anybody's been talking about banning or anything with CBD products. Are you aware of anybody that is using Delta 8 for any medicinal purposes? This letter is geared towards a CBD-based tincture.
The CBD-based tincture, as well as she also uses gummies when she has severe pain. She states that it doesn't get her high, but it just relaxes her muscles.
But it's again CBD-based, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
It again says CBD for the gummy. Is that correct?
No, it's a hemp gummy.
Okay. All right. Okay, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
So my thoughts on this, as it says even in the discussion, Principal Griffith's intention was for people to learn more about this. He came to me and talked to me. I worked at the high school with him, and I had no idea. I didn't know what was available, if you had to be 18, if it was behind the counter, if it was locked up. So all of these things that you're telling us is just good to know. As a community member, as a mom of high school boys, I like the information, and I appreciate you coming to let us know that you card everybody, that it is 21 in your store, that yours is behind lock and key. I think our main intent is to get it out of the hands of our kids. It is a huge issue, and that's where this is coming from. Not to ban it, but to just find a solution to take it out of the hands of our kids. And especially if they're starting in 4th grade. I mean, I can't imagine. So I would like, you know, as a mom, to be able to have the opportunity to teach my kids past the age of 18, where they're still becoming adults and making those decisions instead of at 11. So I do appreciate you guys coming and all the information.
I agree, yeah. I think, I guess I wasn't aware until we first started talking about it, just how much we'd had this in the schools.
I knew, but not at 11 and younger. That's, I mean, shocking and sad.
Well, let alone that we have the middle school principal coming over here and talking to us. It's one thing for the high school principal. It's another thing for the middle school principal. And I just can't help but think of how I would feel if I were Officer Larson, having a 12-year-old say, I can't stop.
Exactly. Or even being the parent, having the Officer Larson tell you your kid's addicted to it. That would be, it might be shocking to the parent as well. I'm not always accusing the parent of it, they got it from them. They are getting it from friends, and there are other sources that kids get these things from. So that might be a shocking conversation in itself to a parent, that their kid's addicted to a vape pen. So, I mean, it's just, it is an issue, but I feel like the issue is our youth, and that's where we should focus our attention. And I appreciate you being part of the conversation, so.
If you want to speak, if you could come over to the microphone. It's just easier for us to hear you, and everything's recorded.
So I'm Dawn Davis, and my husband is Jacob, and we own Vapors. This isn't just Riverton, Wyoming. I mean, this is happening through the schools all over the United States. One of my clients' daughter is the principal in Laramie, and she says she has this issue daily in Laramie Middle School. Daily, 2-3 times a day. So it's not just here, it's nationwide, it's all over.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. We can't effectuate a nationwide solution, but we can certainly try to find one for Riverton.
Right, right.
So, yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this is a work session. We're not doing anything official today. I appreciate people coming in and telling us about this. That's definitely something that we again, this was something that really just started with education. And so being able to get, I think, being able to hear both sides of it, right, from folks that are selling it and exactly how it's being sold, what it's being used for, that kind of thing. And then, of course, the schools that have to deal with the other end of it, which is it's getting in the hands of kids, and we know that. Yes, one solution to make sure things don't get in the hands of kids is just to outright ban it. But that's even not a solution. Then you basically, we tried that with alcohol, for example, and that's where we got a lot of bootlegging and that kind of thing, which is, you just always have unintended consequences. But for now, I think the fact that we're wanting to talk about this and figure it out is a good idea. I guess what I would say is we have, right, the city ordinance does not reflect what we have at the state or the federal level in terms of tobacco. It provides a person under the age of 18 can't purchase tobacco products, misrepresent his age or identity, or use any false or altered identification to purchase tobacco products, or purchase or use any tobacco product or vaping device, regardless of what the vaping device is used for. That includes inhaling of vapors or fumes, regardless of the substance being inhaled. This has, as a maximum penalty, a $750 fine. So theoretically, for a first offense, Judge McKee could say $750 fine. I have it on good authority, I think, from talking to Officer Larson. That's not what's happening, that it is being something that she's gradually increasing depending on the case. Interestingly enough, it has as an affirmative defense that the person possessed or used the tobacco product in the home of or under the direct supervision of his parent or guardian, which is interesting. That's kind of what we have in the state of Wyoming for alcohol use. People don't know this, maybe. Maybe we don't want people to know this, I don't know. People under the age of 21, if they're using alcohol in their home under the supervision of their parents, that's legal in the state of Wyoming. So I think in the city of Riverton, we wanted to have something that was like that in terms of tobacco products. Defining tobacco products in our ordinance is things that contain tobacco leaf or nicotine, cigarettes, cigars, pipe tobacco, snuff, chewing tobacco, or dipping tobacco. Vaping devices includes electronic cigarettes, regardless of the substance intended for inhalation. So if we wanted to do something from the city perspective regarding Delta 8, it actually could be pretty easy to include Delta 8 in this and say tobacco or Delta 8 products.
Right.
If we wanted to do something regarding KRATOM, we have it here. We could include tobacco, KRATOM, or Delta 8 products. And you could increase it to be 18 years of age.
21.
Well, the way it stands right now is 18, but you're right. We could change it to be 21 for all three of them.
Right.
So that's something that we could do. I guess, again, this is just a work session. If that's what the council wants to have as a possible ordinance, and we could discuss it then, it would have 3 readings. People would be able to come here for a public hearing. We'd be able to discuss it more and be able to actually have a vote on it down the road. If there's interest in that from the council,
Would
we
we
could
need
at least get it started.
would we need a motion to direct staff?
No, we would not.
Okay.
We would just,
No, we just wanted direction.
right. So if that's what the council's interested in, where we've got 4 members of the council, we could at least have that as the start, and then we'd have a meeting later, and we'd actually have a discussion then, and we'd have a public hearing, and we could talk about it more then. And then we could talk about things like 18, 21,
Gotcha.
that sort of thing, too. So is there interest in that?
Yeah.
Or do we want to just kind of leave things how they are with it being federally and state controlled? And I would say, I guess, I disagree with you a little bit, Nick, and it's quibbling, saying that CBD hemp products are state and federally approved to sell. I would say in terms of Delta 8, it's just that there's no controls. I guess that's the only thing I'd quibble about. usually when we have products that are being sold for consumption, we've got the FDA involved and that sort of thing. And really what we have with these hemp products or a lot of those is, well, I mean, I agree, but basically what they're saying is it's not a controlled substance, and then the FDA doesn't, I mean, you sit there and you could read anything on some of these products. That's not an FDA-approved statement. That's the thing. I sit there and I go and buy cigarettes or something like that, that you get more FDA control and that sort of thing. Not that I'm saying it matters that much. It's just that was the point that Councilman Bailey was making in terms of his concern of, no, Councilman Bailey. In terms of his concern that, you know, if I'm getting a product, do I really know what's in that product? Well, if you've got the FDA saying this is what's in that product, now mind you, you've got a business that's looking at it, a third party that's looking at it and saying this is what's in it. But that's, I guess, all I'm saying, is it's just that the FDA doesn't control KRATOM, doesn't control Delta 8. It hasn't stepped in and said, we're going to determine exactly how these cells work and everything like that. Not that it's a big difference.
Your Honor.
All right, yes.
Perhaps before we get consensus from the council, I think it's important to note that when it comes to products like Delta 8, and maybe we should put a clarifier on that, Delta 8 is a naturally occurring substance within the cannabis plant. I think a lot of the discussion that centers on Delta 8 is the synthesized version of Delta 8, where concentrates are taken of hemp products or CBD to create something that's consumable. And that's where a lot of the discussion has centered nationally and in the state realm. But when it comes to KRATOM, Delta 8, city attorney and even city staff feel that it's probably best to allow the state to focus on this rather than the municipal side. We have issues as far as whether or not the municipality will step into something that the state is wanting to preempt themselves. We also have interstate commerce concerns, wherein if these products are not illegal, and then we within our own boundary determine that they are illegal, we could subject ourselves to legal liability from that commerce clause that's in the Constitution. So I would advise from staff perspective and also our city attorney perspective that we work rather through our state representatives if you have desires on voicing any type of control when it comes to Delta 8 and synthesized Delta 8 or KRATOM or other products. As referenced before and as you mentioned, when it comes to our tobacco ordinance, we do find that we are at odds with state and national law, and that's an easy place to start for us, but we will take your direction. I just wanted to caution when it comes to preempting the field, as we've discussed, and also interstate commerce.
Well, and I think it's a really good point, too, and also the recognition that when it comes to anything that contains THC, so that we've already got that state statute that's there in terms of being able to sell edible products or any vaping products that contain any amount of THC. So I don't know. I guess we could start with just doing the tobacco, and we could continue the discussion and at the state level, or we can do anything. I mean, not really anything. We can't violate the Constitution. Everybody's taken that oath here. Let's not do that. It's a bad idea, Kyle.
Your Honor, maybe one other comment. Two of our local representatives are on the Judiciary Committee, and they're set to take testimony at the next meeting as it relates to Delta 8 products. As I referenced at their meeting last month, they spent a lot of time talking about Delta 8s and, more importantly, the synthetic derivatives that create Delta 8 products. And so if you would like, you can provide comment and testimony during those meetings to potentially direct any type of legislation that could come forward in the next session. That's one way that you may be able to put Riverton's influence into the law rather than yourselves creating some type of ordinance.
Well, and I think that's the concern of the city attorney, was that when you're preempting the field, the idea is that you're going to be, the state is saying, we want to be the place where people are going to go for legislation in this area. And so by having laws about hemp, by having laws about CBD, by having laws about all these other things, does that send a signal, I guess, to the communities? We want to be in charge of deciding laws about Delta 8 and KRATOM and that sort of thing. So I understand the concern. I think it's really something that we can start really easy and just have our law updated in regards to the tobacco products and then continue the discussion there, or whatever we want to do. As in you.
Your Honor. I know how pussyfooting around something like this is, but there's no easy answer to what the school has asked us to do. We're either for it or we're against it. We're either for allowing children to have that product available. And I understand that people will drive from Riverton to Lander and Lander to Riverton for employment. And I also understand that those same individuals would drive to Lander to pick up products and to sell in Riverton. But it just makes it harder. And I know about Prohibition. I'm old enough to remember what happened during the 30s. And so to wait for our learned counsels from the state of Wyoming to help us in Riverton, they have been so rewarding in helping us with the drilling regulations and the extractive minerals that we've been waiting for. And we'll do a study on taxation. I think that it's our responsibility to legislate or to enact rules that help Riverton. And let's not wait for the great Cheyenne to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any thoughts? Councilwoman Cox, I say this because Councilwoman Salisbury might be thinking I'm talking about her.
I agree with Kyle. I do think maybe for now, we go ahead and do what we know we can do and work on the tobacco and get that going. But I think that the other is maybe a discussion we have with the full council.
It's a good call. Councilwoman Salisbury, any thoughts?
I also agree with Kyle. I think, like I said, if it's an issue with our kids, that we can try to let people know that there's consequences and we don't really want to tolerate it. So for our young kids, that's not taking away from the people that do need it for their medical issues, but we need to make a strong stance for our kids to know that don't even start it here.
So you're thinking more so just something similar to what Sheridan has in terms of raising the age to 21 so it fits with the state and federal, or what are you saying, Councilwoman?
I just agree with Kyle that we need to find some solutions here in Riverton and not wait either.
Okay.
I don't know what those are yet. I don't think any of us know the real solutions, but trying to fix it after the kids are addicted and after there's lots of problems, and we need to have something more of a deterrent so they don't start in the first place, or they know there's, I don't know what, should it be automatic community service from the schools? Or, there has to be some sort of solutions where people don't want to do it because they don't want the consequences.
So should we direct staff to work on updating the ordinance to 21 for the tobacco usage and maybe add the Delta 8 conversation to our next work session?
We could do that, or we could just discuss it when we discuss that ordinance.
Okay.
So I guess for right now, the thought would be just let's do the updated age for tobacco and then discuss it more then.
Your Honor,
Yes.
as we prepare that ordinance, do you want to mirror the penalties that are in state statute? You want to keep it to the misdemeanor up to 750 that's in our current ordinance? Is there any direction you want to give us when it comes to penalties associated with this ordinance?
I remember the discussion very well when we were talking about the change to the tobacco. And the idea was just to leave that flexibility up to the court rather than having it be something that we're going to have it be tiered.
I think we want to give the judicial system as much freedom as they can handle. They're really there at the bench, seeing what's going on, and for us to preempt that isn't, I don't think that's wise at all.
I think we actually had the opposite complaint from Officer Larson in terms
He
of,
wants it more severe.
well, he wants it to be where there's the possibility of a higher fine rather than tiered.
Well, then that's what we need to discuss with full council.
I think you're right. I think let's just have it as it is, and then we can have that for discussion at the time. We could make an amendment.
Agree.
Okay. Well, we're done with that portion. I guess what I would say is, because there's probably people here that were mainly just for the discussion, let's just have a brief 5-minute recess, and then we'll go on to the next item. Anybody opposed to a 5-minute recess?
No.
No.
All right. We'll stand in recess at 8:03 p.m. Ron.
So on this one right here, every single one of them are.
AKA
That
rules.
was just my, and so I.
All right. Are you on, Councilwoman Salisbury?
Yes, I am.
All right, we're over the 5 minutes I said for the recess, but we'll go back into regular session, or work session at 8:11 p.m. We still have present Councilman Larson, Councilwoman Cox, Councilwoman Salisbury, and I am present, Mayor Tim Hancock.
Your show here.
So our next discussion is regarding contracts for services. Now, we have already gone through and filled out and had everybody fill out a form in terms of being able to figure out how we want these to go. I guess what I would say is, I was thinking about this and talking about this with Mr. Butterfield. We could either sit here and do some fancy way of discussing this, or we could just get down to business and try to do our best to see if we can reach some idea of consensus. The reality is the official actions in terms of where contracts for services will be done is going to be a part of the budget process. So we can discuss it all we like today, come up with a proposal in terms of what at least the four of us can agree on, and then when it comes time to pass the budget, at that point, we would actually have the vote. So it may be whatever we talk about today will be a tremendous waste of time because the other three, once they get here, are going to vehemently disagree with us and carry one other vote and will not be able to pass the budget. I'm catastrophizing a little bit. But I think at least we can have the discussion, get some direction to staff, and we can kind of discuss or come to conclusions later.
Okay.
So I guess we could just go one at a time and start with CATS. We had the average response, and this was really helpful, Mr. Butterfield, among the council members was $5,000. We had 5,000, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 7,000 for a total, or for an average response of 5,000, which I think that average might have been before Mr. Bailey put in as I'm looking at the total. Am I right there, Mr. Butterfield?
I may need to update that, just, it might be a column issue, and I can do that on the spreadsheet we have here.
And that's no big deal. The proposed, or the request was 10,000. And somehow I think everybody was willing to put some into that.
Yeah.
So I guess soft right now, are we comfortable with everybody here at least putting down for right now 5,000 there for purposes of discussion as we go?
Yes.
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 Okay, so we'll start with that. Easy one out of the box. Next one was Child Development Services. The amount requested was $100,000. The average response of council members for that one was $2,187.50, which represents 2% of the requested amount. This one was probably pretty divided in terms of only 3 members of the council and myself that actually suggested funding at all. So the majority of the council had actually suggested no funds for CDS. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
My concern was that it was to start a new position and basically a salary. And so my concern is the next year. Where would the money come for that salary for the next year? And would they not be able to provide that service if they couldn't come up with that salary? So, not thinking we'll be able to provide that every single year for that position. I would think if they could look for that money somewhere else to guarantee that salaried position.
And when we were talking here, I had said before, I think CDS does an incredible job.
Yeah, I do as well. My boys went there, and I really applaud what they do for our community. I just worry about the additional funding for next year.
Right. That's always the concern with salaries.
Yeah.
Your Honor, just real quick, the question was raised if Councilman Bailey's numbers were included in the average, and they are.
Okay. Well, my quick math was clearly not on. That's okay. Thank you. Mr. Larson.
I was just saying that I've experienced what child development services do, and we just do not have enough money. But I don't feel 0 is a correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Councilman Larson, your proposed funding actually is the closest to the average response to
Yeah.
2,500.
I wished I had more money, and you would fund the full amount of.
Down there.
Because they're working with the 2 to 5 year olds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a critical period of time to be working with them.
Well, this was for the infant room, for an additional room.
That's right.
Just,
That's what they had discussed.
And yeah, they work with everyone.
Well, and I didn't know, and I was impressed that they actually will have they will assist in funding at a different location. I thought that was
I didn't know
incredible.
that they did that either.
But anyway, that's my thought.
Well, are we comfortable, at least for purposes of discussion, just so we can get some numbers down and then see where to go, that we put this close to where we have the average response and put it at 2,500, I guess reflecting that Councilman Larson was suggesting some funding, and then discuss it further?
Sure.
I would appreciate that, yes.
Councilwoman Salisbury, are you okay with that?
Well, being that it's for a position, I think we need to be careful if we start
True.
supporting positions. And it's such a minimal amount compared to what they asked for.
Right?
I think that could make a difference in maybe one that's a higher priority, personally.
I think you're correct.
Not taking away what they're doing, I just think maybe if we're not going to, I don't think it's very significant for what they're getting a position. So,
And I
not that they don't do the job.
if we're going to discuss this, it's helpful to be able to discuss what are the things that we're looking for. I know that the idea of these funds was initially that these were going to be services that are provided in the community that the city wishes we could provide, but we don't. We are not going to have a city-run infant room. We're not going to have a city-run, the Cats Museum isn't going to be something that's city-run. And so being able to support it in some fashion, because it, I guess, works with the city's mission, I think has been some of it. Generally speaking, I think the initial discussions were these were things that the city would actually be required to run. So that's where PAWS comes into play. That was one of the earliest, I think, organizations that we would fund. And so I think that's a good point. I'm very comfortable with doing this as zero to start as a discussion. I mean, just so we can keep talking. But keeping in mind, I guess, Councilman Larson's request.
Your Honor, I apologize to interrupt again. I was accurate when I said Councilman Bailey's numbers were included in the average. However, as we were looking at those numbers and they did look a little off, it's because there was a column that was hidden in the Excel sheet that threw off that average a little bit. I've corrected it on this. So yes, Councilman Bailey's numbers were included in your sheet, but there was a hidden column that threw off the average that you're looking at in your hard copy. So it's close, but your math projection was accurate in that.
Good. I thought that if you added 5,000, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 7,000, and then divided it by 7, it would not equal 5. I felt pretty confident.
Yeah.
I am a lawyer. I am not a mathematician.
You're a jack of all trades. When I first checked it, I just made sure that Councilman Bailey's was included in the formula, but there was a hidden column that was included that needed to be deleted.
What I thought was that perhaps Councilman Bailey's was just a strikeout, and if it were just nothing included there, then it wouldn't count as anything, so I was assuming that it wasn't zero. All right, Eagles Hope Transition Services. The average response was 34,332. The requested amount was 40,661. I would note, and I mean, I don't mind at all if we have all these up on the board just to be able to see them and talk about them, but we have them here, so I guess my point is I don't think the purpose of all of this is try to have anything secret. It's just for convenience of having the sheet here and being able to have that there.
Mm-hmm.
And Your Honor, I would just reference the overhead for the average number because
Right.
the one on your hard copy is not accurate.
Oh, that's right. That wouldn't be correct, would it? So I guess I would say that the highest amount that had been put here was 75,000. We had an amount that was specifically to fund it exactly as requested, and one that was pretty close, and then one that cut it in half. I mean, we were just all over the board on this. I would say one of the biggest things that I would bring to the council's attention on this one is Eagles Hope Transition, up until this year, has received a good amount of money from the CSBG grant, which is federal dollars that go to the state and then go to the Fremont County Association of Governments. And then recently, the Fremont County Association of Governments, in the last year or two, has been wanting to move from a grant-based way of doing this, where they would have organizations come to them and determine if it fits the mission of the CSBG and then give them money, to actually having their own program, which is actually what is currently going on in the city of Laramie. So what has been the direction from FCAG has been, rather than giving money to these organizations, which included the Riverton Help Center and Eagles Hope, others that have those kinds of services in Riverton, they are going to be funding a CSBG program and have case managers and that kind of thing. So Eagles Hope is going to have a large reduction in funding, and I don't have the budget in front of me. I don't know if we have it. Did we have it included? I don't think we did. Ms. Harris, do you know if it was there?
Should be, Your Honor, I'm looking now.
I guess just tell me the page number and. The reason I bring this up is because I don't know what that's going to mean for the future of Eagles Hope. I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that that it's going to just shut down or whatever, but they are in need, I guess, is the point in terms of being able to fulfill their mission if they don't have the funds from CSBG, which they're not going to.
Your Honor, page 78 of the packet lists our profit and loss schedule, which has approximately $135,000 in CSBG grants.
135,000,
There was a CARES Act grant and then regular CSBG grants, collectively total 135. Right there.
which I think that must have been their last fiscal year, and then next fiscal year, that is going to be much lower. I will say from the FCAG perspective, I spoke to them and suggested, because part of what they're wanting to do is still send their clients to Circles Fremont County, as well as Eagles Hope, and refer them. And I was saying, well, if you're going to do that, then you should refer them and fund them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to be receiving funding and you're going to be referring someone to their program, you should certainly be paying into the program. I don't think that fell on deaf ears. I think that's been part of the discussion, is how to do that and what that would look like. So I don't think it's going to be like they're going to get zero from the CSBG program, but it is going to be significantly reduced.
When is that going to take effect?
October, I think, is what it is. So it's a concern, and one we want to talk about as we're talking about Eagles Hope. Not that I'm saying we can't fund $135,000 as we're looking at this, but it is something to be aware of. The average response at 34,000, I guess just for right now, for purposes of later discussion, do we feel comfortable putting in something close to the average at 35?
Average
Or
is 17.
Your Honor.
Oh, drat, that's right. You've got secret numbers in here that throw me off. Average is 17?
He's got it.
So put it at 18 for now. Are we comfortable with that? And then discuss further?
Sure.
Okay, we can see where we can,
I'd say
Work.
20.
20, just to make it more even?
Yeah.
20 sound okay?
Sure.
All right, we'll put it at 20. Family and Community Support Team. This one, the majority of the council didn't fund.
Well, I feel it's a duplicate.
Go ahead.
I feel that Eagles Hope and Family Community Support Team is competing for the same lunch for the same people.
To a certain extent, I agree.
The Family and Community Support Team is the Circles group, or the group that works within the district with the homeless kids at the schools. And so they were asking for money that they're helping with
Basically,
things like deposits and that kind of stuff that, right?
money they could have more freedom with, I think, to fulfill their mission and not have to have grant restrictions.
So if a family could put a deposit down on this, but that they would help with the deposit to secure their place that they're staying. And I think things like that, instead of, like you said, under grants, where they have a stipulation.
And I think they're going to possibly have similar clientele. I will say, for the most part, Eagles Hope is working as transition housing, the idea being a lot of their clientele are people that are on probation and parole, part of the community-assisted treatment, or court-assisted court-assisted treatment. It's 8:30.
And this is more homeless within the school district.
Right. The average right now was 1,000, I don't know. There's some things going on. Can't,
Wasn't a lot of.
There's some spreadsheet repairs going on right now.
Your Honor, I really apologize. We use these tools for shortcuts, but there's a lot of, as you can see on the right, some hidden rows on this as well. And so as a default, as I clicked in drug from the first cell down, it started including multiple rows. And so I regret that you're getting some live updates to this and that you're looking at some inaccurate information. Again, I think that's just trying to use convenience a little bit too much. And I'm double checking right now that each one of these are only using the appropriate row when they're averaging. For example, with Eagles Hope, for some reason, it didn't do an automatic drag to include one row. It brought in the hidden row, and so you were receiving a diluted number.
that's what I thought. It didn't, again, I'm not the best at on-the-fly numbers, but it didn't make sense. It was 17.
So I apologize for that, and I'm just double checking that everything looks accurate at this point.
So far, the biggest difference that we've had is the average for CDS. Oh, no, that's about the same. Okay, so Eagles Hope was 34.
Yeah.
So are we comfortable with right now, for purposes of discussion, putting that in at 34 then? Councilwoman Salisbury?
Yes.
Councilman Larson? Okay, moving on. He'll fix it as we go. Family and Community Support Team was 1.5. Now it's 1.785. So I guess for purposes of the discussion, do we want to put that in as 1.8? Then we can talk about it further.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to put that in at 1.8. And then injury prevention, the ask 7,500, average was 4,000. Sound about right? Is that changed up there?
38.
38, so we're pretty close. Just for purposes of the discussion, are we okay putting in 4,000 there for right now?
Yep.
And then juvenile justice services, the ask was 35,000. Average was 18,625 on this, 18,428 on there. Do we want to just put that for discussion at 20,000?
Yes.
Okay. Then, Raiders baseball, ask was 7,500, average response, 1,000.
So, side note, they requested the funds for updating their concession stand, getting a new ice maker and a countertop. Gales has donated a countertop, and they will be renting a ice machine during the season that will be repaired as needed, and they can give it back at the end of the season. So it'll actually save them money, and they won't have to do repairs, so they do not need the money.
Okay,
I talked to them about it.
all right.
That's why I put in 0.
I appreciate the homework. Are we okay with 0 right now then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad that they're having their needs met. That's great.
Yeah, found some
All right.
solutions.
Pause. The ask was 75,000. The average is 45,000 about, which is, I think, what we funded last year. Isn't that about right? We okay with 45,000 for now for discussion?
Yes.
All right, RREC, ask was 135, average response 127. That's not too bad either. I mean, that's, what I mean is that we've got a lot of different numbers there. Are we okay with putting 127 in for now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, softball, ask was 15,000. average was 1,687. Let me look at the updated numbers. Am I going too fast for you, Mr. Butterfield?
No, I can catch up.
127 is what we said, although I guess the average is now 126. It's okay, we'll just put that in and talk about it. Softball was 1.571, ask was 15,000.
So my concern with this one is that they were given money through the rec, and it's a sizable donation for their project, and I feel like they are able to start the project with the money that they received from the RREC, or not RREC, from the rec board. I would think if they came back next year and requested money to continue the process, it would be better use of funds. I just don't see them putting in the sprinkler system and sod and seed, starting in their season, after their season, at the end of June into July, and accomplishing more than that. Just a little background on.
Appreciate it. What do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the average then, or do we want to start at 0, or?
I agree with Lindsay. Let's start at 0.
We'll start at 0 for now then. All right?
Which one is that?
That's the Adult Softball Association.
Okay.
And we can adjust this. I just want to kind of get all the numbers down and see where the total's at and see where we need to move. All right, next up, we have Riverton Chamber and Visitors Center. That is at an average of $15,537. The request was $50,000.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
what's the difference between Riverton Chamber of Commerce and Visiting Center and Wind River Heritage Center?
I think the Wind River Heritage Center was more so for some physical changes they wanted to make to the museum.
Well, yeah, but they're occupying the same space.
I agree. They are the same. I mean, I was at the meeting. They basically had the board move over to be the chamber board. So it's a different board, yes, but it is the same people.
Okay,
I agree.
all right. Okay. I'm just confused.
Well, I'm not. You're right, and you're not confused either. You're on the right track. All right.
I think they were trying to update it to move, like, the heating system is right over the animals, and move a bunch of stuff back into where the wax museum is,
Okay.
and then kind of refurbish that for more community. So that's why they think they did it different. The other parts, like printing and all the other stuff that's on there.
Okay. The average there was 15,000, 16,000, really. Do we want to just start with that for discussion?
Yep.
15?
16 or 15, 16, whichever. We can move it. All right, Little League, average 2,214. Ask was 3,000. I'll tell you, they impressed me when they changed what they were going to do with the money and came in and talked to us.
That was refreshing.
I appreciated that.
$2,500 then?
Make it kind of more even.
Yeah.
That'd be fine by me. Do we want to do that?
Well, I mean, for a starting point for discussion.
Okay, 2.5K then.
Yeah.
That's rounding up from 2,214.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody knows you round up. All right, so we'll start there. Senior Center, all right. So this one really only had recommended funding from 3 individuals. I guess I would change my recommendation for this would be 10,000. I'll tell you a little bit why, and we can talk about it. So the Senior Endowment Fund does not allow, it has to be used for their center. It can't be used for the bus garage. They came to FCAG and asked for some of the transportation funds to be used for this, which makes sense because it's meant to be used for transportation in Fremont County. The response basically was, it's not in the budget right now. We can look at it with the budget for next year in terms of being able to provide funding for organizations that need it, that are, have transportation needs. They also, I would say, not they, Gary Michaud said he would assist with them getting a YDOT grant. So it may be, number one, that this could be funded by a YDOT grant. We'll find that out as we go. But I guess what I would say is, I spoke with some of the other individuals at FCAG, and what I could envision happening, they also had gone and spoken to MOVE to see if they could get funds from MOVE. And what I had suggested we at least try is to see if they could get 10,000 from MOVE, 10,000 from FCAG, and 10,000 from us to be able to fund this. That way FCAG isn't having to fund the whole thing. Commissioner Jones think it might be possible that MOVE would be willing to fund it. I don't know. But at least we could alleviate it with 10,000. That's pretty close to the average, which is 8,700. So I guess I would suggest we start with 10,000 for that, with the recognition that they might be able to get a grant, and then we have 10,000 we can put towards something else, I suppose, if that does happen.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Salisbury.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to start at the 10,000.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you. The swim club, the ask was 5,000, average was 3,000. Oh, that's a better number than what I had here. Hidden numbers. Maybe that's been the problem with government funding all along. Maybe you found something.
Well, Honor, I really apologize. I don't want you to lose confidence in the staff of government. But you do have the accurate numbers before you.
I appreciate it. And I know you guys are very careful. I appreciate all you do. That was meant to be a joke, not any sort of commentary on government.
Well, at swim club, when they have meets, that brings people into the.
I agree.
Like soccer, you know, and if you don't believe it, go to Lander when there's a swim meet.
Doesn't part of this go back to their scholarships as well for citizens?
I think their ask was specifically for when they do tournaments.
Oh, that's right.
They were wanting to make sure there was the training necessary.
Getting meetings mixed up.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, and I thought, when you talking about the benefit to the community
Yeah.
in terms of money, I was like, well, I almost wish they'd come to Edge. Because I have seen when they've had a lot of people come from meets. Anyway, are we okay with starting at the average there of about at exactly 3,000 for discussion?
I would think so.
Okay. And then moving on, volunteer firemen, 5,000. That's been probably one of the things we've paid into with this the longest, or
I
close
just
to the
think
longest.
we ought to, if they want it, they get, you know, just give them 5,000. Why? Well,
I agree.
why? Because that's what we've done historically, and they're a volunteer organization. And if your house has been, they do their job.
Well, and I will say, this is the one item that every member of the council agreed on. And this should have been where I found out there was a problem with the averages. Because every single one of them is 5,000, and it says the average is 4,687. That should have been, that's what we call in the legal
That should have given you an alarm.
criminal justice system a clue.
Well, Your Honor, I'll give you another clue. You have $1,700 remaining, and the last two requests from the averages total $2,700.
We're doing pretty good. All right, next up, Volunteers of America. This is the one where I was vastly outnumbered. There was only one person on the council that suggested funding them at all. It was me. The average for that is 1,428. So I know that when we funded Volunteers of America previously, the idea was that it was because they had taken over the detox center. And so the idea behind that was, we're going to have people come here, and it's going to be an alternative to jail. We actually had Chief Broadhead that was running numbers, was looking at it, and was saying, this is saving us money. That has changed a little bit in terms of, we had a different chief who wanted to do things differently, which I respect. You're having different people that are wanting to try different things. We've had the largest jail bill in the history of jail bills. Not jail bills, but here. Not that I'm saying this funding would necessarily provide a detox center for them. They do what they call social detox. They don't have medical personnel on staff. If they need to have medical detox, they take them to Sage West to be medically detoxed. But they do, I think, what they call close observation is what they're doing now. I am okay with going with the rest of the council. The only thing I would encourage you to think of, I guess, with this is that the Volunteers of America is doing a lot to assist with folks getting sober in our community. The idea of this, and when we funded them before, it was an alternative to jail. Now it's more treatment-based, and I appreciate what they do, and so that's basically where me being willing to fund them came from. For discussion, we could put down the average, or we could just put nothing down and we could have discussion regardless. But I guess what I would encourage is at least something to show that we support the mission, I suppose, even if it's not providing us detox beds. And one of the things I actually wish we could have had, which I really appreciated from Eagles Hope, was people whose lives Eagles Hope had changed. I loved that. That was a great way to have that presentation. And it would have been nice to have that with Volunteers of America. But I do think that they are doing well. They are trying to change the way they do things. They're trying to, I think, restore trust in their program and that sort of thing, and they're trying to still help people. So I guess I would encourage us to consider that. The last one up there, the Wind River Heritage Center, we had 3 individuals that wanted to fund that, 4 that did not. I think probably the 4 that did not, the thought process was, what's the difference between the Wind River Heritage Center and the Chamber of Commerce?
My thought process on that was I'd rather fund something that was doing something instead of a remodel. I mean, Eagles Hope, we saw it live, what the effect is having on our community. I'd rather fund that than a remodel. I just feel like that money could be sought somewhere else or raised another way.
So that might be something. Do they still have beautification funds in like a different area?
In the rec, they do.
That may be is there still funding in there? That might be a better pool of money to go to for that.
The rec might, that's a good idea. The other thing is that we get money, and this money burns a hole in my pocket. I don't know why. And Kyle knows what I'm going to bring up, which is the Wyoming Community Gas money that they provide to the community every year. And it's meant to be, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Harris, tell me if I'm wrong, it's meant to be really for beautification programs.
Not necessarily, actually. I learned this year at conference that they also use that money. It can be used for whatever the mayor and the council decides. We generally have to tell them, they ask us each year to let them know what we plan to use the project for, which historically we have put as beautification projects, but it does offer some flexibility to you.
And do you know what the amount is for this upcoming fiscal year?
It's a little over $13,000, and we do have that written into the budget this year.
So that's a thought, if we wanted to have that go to it. And we could consider, we could have the similar thing where we have a grant and people would have to apply. Thank you, Ms. Harris. That's very helpful. So I'm willing to consider anything with this. The average is 1,357. But I do agree with Councilwoman Cox. If we're sitting there and we're talking about what to do with it, with money, all other things being equal, being able to see that, like you said, Eagles Hope clients here.
I'd maybe rather start off with 0 there and put the 2,700 to Volunteers of America.
Okay. Or the 1,700,
Well, I mean, the remaining.
right? Okay. I see what you're saying. So put 1.7K for Volunteers of America and 0 for Wind River Heritage Center. Okay. All right. So Mayor Warpness, I think, was challenging us to be able to get anywhere close to in the break. Where do we want to make any adjustments, I guess, from here? Recognizing that any adjustments we'd make would have to represent an adjustment somewhere else or multiple other places. How comfortable are we with this proposed amount right now?
I think it's good for when we talk to the rest of council.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I think it's a good place to start for when we talk to the rest of the council members.
Okay, I think that's, you're saying just leave it as is, no adjustments,
Yeah, not right now.
okay? It would mean we get to go home before 10 o'clock.
That's a good idea.
I feel pretty comfortable with it as we have it. I think we're getting the essentials. I appreciate being willing to listen to me on the Riverton Senior Center, Citizen Center. I would note, I guess, if we had a grant funds that came up for them, we could readjust down the road, I suppose. Be a little bit unique, but.
Well, they want to put that on the ballot, to collect revenue for that.
Right.
And I feel that's a place for it. If you want that, whatever fraction of percent on sales tax, then you vote for it, it's okay. But I question whether we should do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're right. We've not funded them previously. This would be different.
Yeah.
But I think if the understanding is this is basically for this project, and this is because of the need here and being able to make sure it's filled.
Well, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, if that would occur. But the only guarantee is our 10,000.
I agree. But I think regardless of whether we fund it or not, the need for the roof is there.
Oh, most assuredly.
And so I think one of the things we've discussed, and this is something that I wish Councilman Paranto was here because it's been something he's been really discussing, is with the rec board, you're basically working on receipts. You're making sure that the money's being used where you're asking it to be used. If we were to have this be 10,000 going towards them, the idea would be, if the other money gets together, and you can come forward and say, this is ready to go, it could be written, I mean, we write contracts for these very literally, these are contracts for services. We could say, you're getting 10,000, but only if you're actually using it towards a roof.
Right.
We could have it be after the other money has materialized, or something like that. So I think with that understanding, we could say fund it, and only if the rest of the money gets there.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
don't feel bad about that at all.
And then what would the timeline be for that, Mia? Or does this expire at the end of the year if they have, okay.
Yes, it would be good through this budget season. So if they waited until next spring to fix it, they would just need to provide us, we can write it in the contract where they provide us proof of documentation.
Okay.
So I understand and I agree with you, Councilman Larson. And if it's not going to be used for that, then I'd like to have it actually be used.
Well, Mia, if that weren't used, would that find its way back to the general fund, or would that be, instead of 275,000 this year or next year, it'd be 285 because it'd include the 10,000 that wasn't spent the previous year?
That would really be up to the council's discretion. We try to zero those out, but we have had carryover with some of our own projects from previous years, just based on timing of getting supplies and materials and things like that. So that would be a discussion that you would want to have.
Okay, thank you. I think that'd be a good idea if we could write that in.
Okay,
But I mean, for discussion with
yeah.
everybody.
All right, well, if we're comfortable with this for the proposal from the four of us, and having, because this is what's going to be in the budget, and then having that discussion carry over to the budget. I will say, I did speak with Councilman Peranto, and I discussed with him the possibility of the 10,000 for the senior center, because I knew he wasn't going to be here. And he was supportive of it, once I had explained it. And then also, had discussed with him the possibility, just in terms of his recommendation for Eagles Hope, and had kind of talked that I actually thought that it should be more than the 20,000 that I had put in initially. And he was agreeable to that as well. So I did speak about those two items in particular. So, all right. Well, if we're comfortable with this right now, in terms of direction to staff, then let's do that, and we'll have this in the budget, and we can discuss it more if the rest of the council would like. Does that sound good, Mr. Butterfield?
Yeah, Your Honor, that's perfect. We'll put that into the workbook that you'll receive on Friday.
All right.
No hidden columns?
No hidden columns.
No hidden columns.
Or God.
I will say, to not be jibing too much at our wonderful city staff, I have worked with Excel enough to know that Excel does a lot of weird things when you're using it.
Oh, they can hide lots of things.
When you're dragging columns, there's just different things that it throws in. It's frustrating. All right, well, if there's no objection, then I would think we could adjourn. Anybody want to keep meeting? All right,
No, thank you.
then I would say we are adjourned at 8:55 PM.
Thank you.